There's a funny story in this that I'll tell you. No one knows this. I don't even think I've told Gaz this story. When we were doing that, it would have been January. That's right, because it was December when we finished all the records and delivered the album, and this was January because it was his birthday. So we were given the job, and we had to put together a medley of songs. So Gaz gave us some songs he thought they would like to do, and we put together the track, the segues into the different songs, and I Want to Hold Your Hand, and etc. So we did this thing, and I'd got a cassette, and I needed to get it to Gaz to okay it so I could get the band in. You know what I mean? To do it properly.
Yeah.
So we went over, me and the guy I was working with, Gary Barlow, and we got to Gaz's house, but he was out for it was his birthday. He was out for dinner. And there was always this little posse of girls on the grass verge opposite his house,
Yeah.
And we turn up, these two losers, dudes all of a sudden sitting there outside his house. And I said to Kerry, this is not cool. What are we doing here? We're going to get the police if we're not careful. So I said, look, can we just put it in his post box? Of course, there is no post box. The only post box is on the side of his house, of his bungalow. This is in Knutsford, right? So Kerry says, well, what we're going to have to look, Kerry, I can't look. I'm not climbing over this fence. I'm 6'6". I'm going to get seed. Kerry was only a small guy. So I said to him, you're going to have to go over the fence and drop the cassette in. And he went, hell, it's like breaking an entry. I said, well, we've got to leave the cassette. You've got to listen to it tonight. We've got no option. We're not going to sit around all night. We could be out till midnight, So Kerry got out of the car, and you could see all these sort of girls like, what is going on? And he climbed over the fence, and he just got to the top of the fence. And the fence broke, and he fell in. He fell into the garden, in all this mud. He sort of gets up mud all over him. And I went, put the cassette in, So he ran in and dropped this cassette in the put, and he gets back in the car, we shoot off. And we were cracking up laughing because it was like the most bonkers situation. And I remember coming to make the Beatles record, and Gaz said, when you came to drop that cassette off, was there anyone knocking about? I went, oh, it's just like a bunch of girls like usual. He went, you know what? He said, someone broke me fence. And I went, no, I don't know, mate.
You've done some amazing things in your career. Is there any one thing that stands out?
A number of times I have literally taken a minute and said to myself, what am I doing here? What is going, like, for instance, going to Afghanistan. Yeah. When Gaz and I went and did the gigs there, I don't think anyone realizes what my job was in that, but it was not an easy one. I had to go out the week before him and find musicians in the army that could be the band, right? So I was going to be the MD, the keyboard player and MD, and I had to literally audition like a truck driver or a nurse or whatever, and turn them into the band, rehearse these songs, because Gaz was going to be there for the last few days and we had no time. So by the time he got there, they had to learn. It was the most incredible pressure, but I'll tell you what, it was a life changer for me. It actually changed my perspective on so many things, which led me to get involved in Invictus and produce the opening ceremony for the Sheffield show. And I will continue to work with our injured soldiers, and military personnel. That it was a life-changing event. See, you never quite know what these things, the profound effect these things will have on you.
So where do you get your inspiration from?
Do you know what? It's one of those things. I got so used to being in the studio and just having to come up with it. I remember around that time. Actually, it was the day we were doing Whatever You Do to Me. I remember saying to Gaz, how do you just come up with them every day like this? And he says to me, El, do you know what? You get in the zone and you just stop thinking about it, and you just put your hands on wherever your hands fall on the keyboard. You just let them go until you come up with something that you like. he says, you don't even think about it. He says, you get, and I remember him saying that to me.
Mm.
And it was probably a couple of years later when I was right in the thick of the 90s, and it was literally hit after hit after hit for me during that time. And I remember it coming to me one day, thinking, do you know what? This is what Gaz was talking about, that zone, you know, that just getting, and everything seemed to work. It's a funny old time. And but there was a lot of pressure to deliver, and I really thrive on that kind of pressure. So what I like doing is putting myself in a position where I have to sort of come up with it. And doing Finding Neverland, for instance, in New York was so full on like that, because Gaz was on tour. I was more at the coalface, and I would speak to him every day and say, I'll be doing this today, what do you think about it? Send him an idea, he might come back with some lyric changes or whatever. But I was having to be there all the time. So sitting with the director who just says, yeah, this lyric needs to change, can you do it now? And I would just sit there and come up with it in front of the director and the book writer. Was really intense, but sometimes you have to, that's the job in hand. You've got to come up with the goods. You say you're a musician and a songwriter, you got to prove it. So I like putting myself in this position. I'm actually writing a new musical at the moment. And so I've booked myself, I'm actually going in a week on Friday. I've booked myself a little cottage on the Isle of Skye. And I've got my portable studio, which is all going in the back of the car. And I'm just going to set up there for a week and isolate a week of writing.
Wow.
Because every time I try to do something here, something goes on, the dog goes nuts, or the door, or what. Do you know what I mean? There's like just stuff that gets in your life.
Yeah.
So even though I work at home, which is better for me as a writer, because I get to, do my own time, still things get in the way. So I thought, right, I'm just going to do this. And Gaz does the same thing. He just isolates himself. Whenever we've got to do a lot of work in a short amount of time, we tend to do that. We just go somewhere.
You mentioned musicals there. Can I just raise Finding Neverland with you? I mean, firstly, is the process for writing musicals different to that process of writing sort of pop tunes?
There are mechanics within it that are very different. Like writing specifically for a story that what I learned very quickly, and had to learn this, is the most important lesson, that music exists in theatre, in musical theatre.
Yeah.
And the only reason why there's a song is because they are the thoughts and the feelings of the actor who sings, right? They're the things that they can't articulate in speech. So he sings them. Now, that could be, you've got two people on stage, and he's singing his emotions. The other person can't hear them. We can hear them as the audience. But they're his thoughts and his feelings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then she will sing the opposite, or her version. They're not talking to each other. They're expressing themselves. And eventually that comes together. And when they connect, what they really wanted to, that big kiss scene at the end of it, that's what it was all about. But we've learned how they're feeling. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So that's the job of a song in musical theatre.
Absolutely.
So as much as we actually talked about this quite a lot originally, and we said to the director, look, the pair of us are just Pop-Tarts. So whatever we do here, that's where we go back to. And she went, no, that's what I want you to do. So we just wrote songs that we thought were good pop songs. And then the job was then crafting them specifically into the story, which was really bloody hard. So you end up writing sometimes 5 or 6 times writing the same song lyrically until it works, because there's one thing working as a pop song, and there's another working because of what you're seeing, and it, you know what I mean, and what's happening in front of you, so that it travels the story on. Because you can't just have this 3-minute hole in a show. It's got to be moving the story along. So there's a whole new craft there that almost I had to forget everything I thought I knew about writing songs and learn this new craft, which was, of course, for me at my age, come on, it was awesome. It was like starting again, brilliant. So you take that then into what we do as songwriters. I think it's made me a better songwriter, because it's more meaningful, because you start thinking about stories and stuff. So I think my songwriting has gotten better as a result. But also we got the bug into music. Absolutely loved. So we've written crikey, we've written a whole new musical, and then we're halfway through another one at the moment. So we're really into doing it. It's exciting. And of course, then we did Calendar Girls.
Yeah.
Straight after that, I wrote the sort of the main theme, I guess, with Gaz and Tim for that. And then obviously since then we've got into other stuff. So it's had a really profound effect on both of us as songwriters.
There was talk a few years ago, wasn't there, of Finding Neverland coming over to the UK, making its West End debut. Do you think that'll ever happen now? I've been desperate to see it.
I can absolutely guarantee it's coming.
Oh, amazing. That's brilliant.
I mean, literally last night had an email saying that, yeah, it's all looking good. Obviously, we're in a bit of a strange time with COVID playing a role, but hopefully next year, the plan is sort of second half of next year to have it in London.
Amazing.
And then it'll tour extensively around the UK, so you're all going to get to see it.
Is there one song that you wish that you had written, or is there an artist, alive or dead, that you would really like to have written for? Or written?
Well, Aretha Franklin was the winner for me there.
Yeah.
She was one of my idols. The one, and I actually don't even know if I could do this, even if I got the chance to do it. I think I would be a mess, just a blubbering mess. Would be Kate Bush, who I think is the best living genius musician, songwriter, artist that exists in the world still. And I've been lucky in that I worked for Michael Jackson. I wrote with Burt Bacharach, and Celine Dion has sung my song with Aretha Franklin, Bryan Adams. You know, I've had incredible opportunities to work with my idols, but the one that her song saved my life, if I'm really honest, Kate Bush, and at tough times in my life has gotten me through it. So it would be Kate Bush. If I went to see her when she did all those gigs in London, and I was just a mess the whole way through. It was so highly emotional for me. Mm-hmm. So I become a total fan at that point, and I don't know if I'd be able to cope with it. I think it would be embarrassing for both of us if I ever got to meet her. I'd probably get my shit together at some point, but it would have to be after quite a blubbering mess. I'm sure by that point, security would have led me from the building, you know.
Well, finally then, Eliot, after such an amazing career, I mean, you know, like first #1 at 25, Grammy Award winner, you've got an Ivor Novello, you performed at the Oscars. What next? What are you going to give us next?
I guess.
What is the left?
I used to say to Gaz, for his birthday, I said, what do you get the man who has everything? And he always says, more of what he's got. So I think that when you never do any of these things for awards. You never do any of these things thinking, oh, this is going to get me an Ivor Novello or whatever. So you have to remain where you started, and that is because I love it. I can't wait to start every day. This is my home. I'm sitting in front of my keyboard right now. This is my home rig. It's the first thing I do every day is feed the dog and then sit here and turn my gear on and see what happens. So I think that you just keep doing what I'm doing, like, you know, going off to the Isle of Skye for a week to write. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I might spend a week there and get nothing. I don't think I will. But, you know, after a week, there will be new songs in the universe that didn't exist before.
Yeah.
And the beginning of a new musical that I hope people will see all over the world. So it's such a crazy job doing. You don't know what's coming next, you know, what song we're going to write next. And on those days that you write, you know, and everything changes, or you write a Back for Good that end up changing people's lives, you know, because it just sings to them at the right point. They hear that song at the right time. And it happens to all of us that, you know, when you've heard a song a million times, then all of a sudden it just, whoa, it goes in and it connects with you. That's what we do it for. We have a responsibility as songwriters to transfer emotion. That's the job, and music is the vehicle.
Thank you so much for your time. I wish you all the best with your new writing projects. I look forward to hearing
them. Have a great time. And for all the fans, thank you so much over the years. And do you know what? I feel really lucky because a lot of you guys know who I am, and when you see me and Gary together and at events and stuff, you've always been kind to me and shout my name out or want autographs. It's really lovely of you. I've always appreciated it. A lot of you come to shows that I do, that I put on gigs for charity. I can let you know, after all this time, Gary has pressured me over the last 20 years to make an album, and I've made one.
Amazing.
It's going to be out before the end of the year, so keep an eye out. You'll see it, I'm sure, on social media, and I'll let you know. The album's called A Yacht Named Sue, and it's the first time I've ever recorded as an artist. So it's been a joy to do, and Gaz is thrilled that I've eventually made it, and I run everything by him and get his opinion, of course. But it's going to be the first time I've ever done it, so I'm looking forward to hearing what you think. So that'll be out in a few months.